Welcome to this very special episode of Esvali TV. I am at the Awakening Conference at Fyn, and I have right here a very good friend that I met in a radio show. His name is Steve Whybrow. Steve, please take it away.
Thank you very much for having me, and it's great to be here in Denmark.
Steve, when we were talking on the radio show, you impressed me very much with your speak about sovereignty. Could you please tell me, what is sovereignty all about in your view?
Well, I think that it's the antithesis, the very opposite of what we are being pushed into right now with all the agendas that are happening, which is actually one single agenda in this world. And the system is pushing us more and more into a collective mindset, into sort of like a hive mind where the individual's voice is not important anymore. No one's, for example, right now in 2020, no one's interested if you don't want to wear a mask, because you have to wear a mask because everyone else is doing it, and you have to get the vaccine because everyone else is getting it. And this is a collective mindset. And the antithesis of that is to give power back to the individual, and that is under the notion of sovereignty, which is to be in truth and living in truth. And the difference to collectivism is that in collectivism, the collective is dependent on the individual to join it. So there's this force pulling you in, where you have to subordinate yourself and give up your individuality. Whereas in sovereignty, it is not dependent on anything outside of you. This is the beauty of it. And it's very important in my estimate to assert one's sovereignty now. So sovereignty is given to the being itself. It only has to be actualized by the being and asserted by the being, and then wait if anything shows up in your environment, in your experience, that this proves the claim that you're making of your sovereignty. Because what would happen, in my understanding, is you assert your sovereignty, and then you will have experiences which lead you on the road ultimately to self-realization, to knowing the self, and what is also called enlightenment. And I think this is the journey how we get out of this crisis that we're facing as a civilization right now, with all of the symptoms of problems that we can see in the world.
Yeah. Can you understand that, a lot of people in this world that we are in a state of extreme confusion, because they have been taught, one paradigm, which is definitely not sovereignty, and then there is this notion of sovereignty that if you quiet your mind, you can actually feel that there's something wrong. Do you have a piece of advice to these men and women out there that they know something is wrong, but they cannot really grasp what to do with it? So, any practical advice on how to get to real sovereignty?
Yeah, and in my estimate is to simplify everything that you're doing and start with the basis again. Because in my understanding, after 10 years of research, the most hidden information on this planet is a certain type of knowledge, and it's actually the building blocks of knowledge. So it's principles, and principles relate to princeps etymologically, which means first and foremost, the most important knowledge to have. And that's knowledge about the self, about heart-based intelligence, what it means to really live from the heart, and to live by principles, and those are the principles of natural law. That is the most hidden information on the planet. And when the way we can face the situation that we have right now and not be confused where to start is to live in heart-based intelligence, because the only access point that this control system and the control mechanism has over us is only through our own mind, and it's through the thought processes. So when you can quieten the mind, and heart-based intelligence, easily explained, is to just do the right thing, and that is to, whatever situation you face, this doesn't mean that you always have to do the right thing, because you can't be a master straight away. It's a learning process. Like when we were little children, we had to learn to walk again, and we fell over a lot of times. What life is asking from us is to always get back up again. And just the most important thing is to realize this aspect, that when you do the right thing, and right is, you can always know what is right when you know what is wrong. And what is wrong is anything or any action that causes harm to other sentient beings. This is very clearly defined, and it's not up to anyone to decide that they choose what is right and wrong. This is one of the problems we have in our society, that people think they can say what is right and what is wrong, when it's clearly defined anything that causes harm is wrong, and therefore we know what is right. And just doing the right thing, what the heart tells us. And I would also say, what people can also do is to realize the way they are being controlled. And this goes again back to the mind, because one way of how this control system accesses our thought processes is through the mind, and I would say it's noise also, a lot of noise. So whenever you have thoughts coming up in your mind that you didn't consciously choose yourself, those are not your thoughts, and you can train yourself to not identify with these thoughts and stay in the present moment. And I think that's a way to become more present and interact with life in a way of gratitude. Be grateful for any experience you have, and also to whatever you feel, connect with your feelings again. Because when you connect with your feelings, you connect with your bodily intelligence again, which is innate intelligence. It relates to the heart and it speaks to you. And when you feel sad, for example, then cry. And that's what a man should do. I cry wherever I am. I don't give a damn. I trained myself to do that, to be honest to myself. And through crying, you let go of this energy that needs to go away. When you're angry, try and use that anger and express it in a way where you again are not causing harm to other sentient beings. Or when you're in fear, realize that you're only in fear of the fear itself, of that feeling. Whereas actually you are leaving your comfort zone, and that's the only place where growth can actually take place, is outside of the comfort zone, and that's where fear manifests itself. And when you just show up, and this shows a form of courage, just do it instead of thinking about it, because the thinking again would give us all sorts of reasons not to do things, whereas if we just were to do it, we would expand, we would grow, and this growth is an expression of evolution. So that's what we can do, and that's the connection of feelings is the missing link, what we've been disconnected from.
Exactly. That's a really good point. And what are your thoughts on this constant white noise that society lets out, or let's say the powers that be or were, in terms of the lies that we are told through the media outlets, through every single social media? They have information that concerns something that is not real. So we have this situation where we are constantly bombarded with lies. Do you have any good suggestions to how do the ordinary men and women out there filter this information so that they can start listening to their heart?
Well, I think the best teacher is your own experiences, and to apply to actually, instead of believing information and hoping that it's true, the most important thing we need to learn is how to learn itself. Learning how to learn, not what to learn. As Socrates, for example, said, is education, and I studied mathematics and history to become a teacher. Education is the kindling of a flame, it is not the filling of a vessel. So we're also trained to believe that people that know a lot are the intelligent people, and I know so little, but let me tell you, people that know a lot and they meet someone else who knows a lot, they think they know little, because how do you think that you're further than some? It's not quantifiable. Much more important is to ignite that flame. The ignition of the flame, this relates to do what you really came here to do. And that is also what is preventing us from that, is the fear. Because there is a difference between the self that we've been living up to this point to the self-expression that is in alignment with what our heart really yearns for, what it really wants to express. And the reason we are in this situation of crisis is because we've not gone the path of the heart, to go with what we're yearning for. And everything around us in our environment is now showing us, actually, stop arguing about the politicians or condemn the politicians. They are only mirroring back to us that it is us that need to take responsibility back into our own hands. And an important thing, as I said, is learning how to learn. And there is the trivium process of learning, for example, where you get an input of information, any sort of information, and then you process that information at the second stage, and then you output that information. So knowledge, in that sense, is not power, it's only the potential of power. The use of knowledge is power. And when you use knowledge, you'll see if it stands up to scrutiny. When it's based in reality and in truth, then you will have good results in your life coming back to you. And you're actually giving something toward the evolution of the entire species, because you're acting as you are saying. And when it's wrong information, it will prove to be wrong, but this is the way you learn. You only have to start. Another thing that we've been conditioned is that when we make mistakes, that this is a problem, whereas making a mistake gives you the chance to correct that mistake. And the best way of learning, again, is through experience.
I absolutely agree. So the situation in the world, we have this world around us facing lockdown, increasingly restrictions, use of force against civilians. What would you say that men and women out there could do? Are the men just going to stay on the couch, or do you encourage men to stand up and be men? Or any thoughts on the current sex role debate in society? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, what I would recommend is people, and in this moment, type into YouTube Bill Gates and the second wave, and look into his face and see how you feel about that. That this man is telling you what your future is going to be. A man who has no medical expertise, no background in medicine, telling you which shot to get, for which he doesn't take any of the liability, and puts you in a lot of danger. Now, how does that feel? And remember, that's the path you take when you let those sorts of people run the show. Because there's pictures also with him, with Jeffrey Epstein, who is a known pedophile, which is a nice expression for what it really is. Okay, and if this triggers you, then that's very good, because you are connecting to your emotion there. Yep. If we take that path that we let psychopaths like that dictate our life, well, then you'll be served exactly that which you wanted. That's your choice. Whereas I made the choice, and I can only speak from my experience, I invite everyone to make the choice of self-determination, where you realize that these people have no power over you when you assert your sovereignty and actually only make the choice to go on that journey of what you might be scared of, and you're only scared of the very fact that it is in the unknown. It's the only reason why you're scared of it, because it is unknown. And it's everyone's choice if they want to get out of the hamster's wheel that they've been in. Now is the time you can do that, because when you do that and you confront the unknown, you put light into the darkness and you see actually there is a path. And you don't have to have the whole thing figured out. This is something I experienced in my life. I only always know the next step. What I'm ultimately doing, if I'm an investigative journalist, if I'm a teacher or whatever, these are all notions which cannot describe me, because it's the experience I'm after, and that's what we're here for. Everything for us is crying out now to give our part of the solution, because everyone, when they are on this planet, and the human being has got a part to the solution. If they don't share it, the picture is incomplete. I won't save you, as well as you are not going to save the people. We have to do this together and motivate us, and we will enjoy it. It's only the confrontation of something that is unknown. That's all. But in the unknown is outside of the comfort zone, the only place where any growth ever takes place.
I totally agree. That was just beautifully put. Thank you very much for that. I would like to end this interview on a note about the future, because I think a lot of us in the truth movement, we think a lot about the future. I think a lot of people has worry about the future. What is it going to be like? Is it going to be Bill Gates' version of a horror show for you and I? Or is it going to be a paradise on earth? Now, I would love to hear what Steve Whybrow thinks about the future. What is your dreams?
Well, that future is in the unknown. I don't know that. And probably I'm not supposed to know. Maybe I can know in some way. But ultimately it doesn't matter, because what I am looking to see if the concept of sovereignty stands up to truth, as the way I see it.
Yeah.
Therefore, when I'm sovereign and when I assert my sovereignty, I have a very good feeling that I've solved the corona, and I've put on the corona, the crown, as a symbol.
Yeah.
What does it really mean? And not stay in a victim state, but ask, what is the learning lesson in all of this? And I think it is to become sovereign, and that mommy church and daddy state want us out of this house of the system, to become independent, but they wouldn't tell us directly. They just make it very, very, very uncomfortable for us, so we get the freaking hell out of here and be and live in freedom. I think it's time.
Yeah.
If it's not the face mask now that has got you thinking, what is it going to take? They'll keep pushing. We need to get out of here, because then everything will solve by itself, because we got the lesson. When the cause of the problem is solved, the problem ceases to exist. And when you solve the causal level, all the symptoms have to go. That's the beauty of it.
That was just powerful. I thank you very much for sharing all your knowledge and profound insights into the workings of the human mind and heart. I'm very thrilled that you wanted to share these thoughts and feelings and concepts of reality here with you out there in Esvaliland watching this film. Thank you very much, Steve Whybrow. I'm very pleased you entered into this interview. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name's Stephen Whybrow. I'm an investigative journalist and teacher of natural law principles, as well as a student of natural law principles, and I'm here to experience freedom.
Perfect.